Nicole Danielle.
And I'm Meghan Lee. And this is Romance on the Rocks, where two bookish biddies imbibe.
I am super excited for today's podcast. We are doing a Thanksgiving theme.
Yes.
The trigger warnings for your stuff today?
No, actually, none this time around, which is quite lovely.
Me either. No trigger warning. I think it's a first.
It's a Thanksgiving miracle.
It is. I won't have any spoilers in mine. Will you have spoilers in yours?
I'm not telling the ending. So, I mean, I'm sure anybody can think that something is spoiling, but I think I'm keeping it pretty above bar.
And I definitely have adult content.
Yeah, there's adult content in mine as well.
Perfect. And then what are you drinking this evening?
So I'm skipping ahead in holidays with my my cup, which I've got the Door County Christkindl Market. So I'm Christmasing here, but inside it's mulled wine, and it called for oranges, which I did not have. So I used mandarin oranges because why not? Like out of a can.
Okay.
I figured I'm just going to go for it. So it's wine, cranberry juice, brandy, all the little mulling spices, and it is hot. So I'm going to enjoy this. How about you? What are you drinking?
I am drinking a salted caramel martini. This is a recipe that Bob and I created for one of my parties, my s'mores and teenies party.
Oh, nice.
So it has vanilla vodka, caramel vodka, butterscotch schnapps, caramel syrup, simple syrup, and Maldon sea salt.
This sounds very sweet.
It's way sweeter than I would normally prefer in a cocktail. I'm not a huge sweet person in terms of cocktails, but it's all I had. I did not have any cranberry juice handy, so
I said I've got the cranberry juice for you, so I've got it on my side. But yeah, it seemed very Thanksgiving-ish to do some sort of like warm drink. So I'm getting in the mood.
Perfect. Yours sounds delightful. I wish I had had cranberry juice around.
It really is quite nice.
So, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I think it's a you go first this time. I think I took it away last time, so I believe it is your turn.
All right.
What do you got going for us?
Well, I switched books. Originally, I was going to read a very
frothy Thanksgiving book.
And as I read the synopsis, I was like, I just can't.
Can you describe what is frothy?
Goody two-shoesy, yeah.
Okay.
Frothy.
Okay.
And I needed something a little more down to earth. And so I randomly found a book online, and it's called Stuffed, a Thanksgiving Romance. And the title alone drew me in.
Yeah, I mean, how can it not?
It definitely did. And I am so glad I switched because it was a thoroughly enjoyable read. I really, really enjoyed reading it. So it is by Jessica, and I'm so sorry, Jessica. I'm going to totally butcher your last name. Gadziala? I'm assuming it's Italian. And I'm butchering the heck out of it, so I apologize, Jessica G., but I totally appreciated your book. This was published in 2016. This legit ticked all the Thanksgiving boxes for me. There was an apple orchard. There was football. There was a Thanksgiving meal. There was fabulous nerdy references to Harry Potter and Star Wars, and it was just very down to earth, very realistic, and it ticked all the Thanksgiving boxes. And I've told you before on previous podcasts, I love the details, like the steamy details.
Yes. This sounds like it's more than a poblano. All right.
We got habanero with it.
Ooh, you're really getting spicy.
My husband was away for the past month fishing in Canada, so I was happy to read this. Main characters, there's Callie. Whose nickname is Pip, and I'll explain why later.
Okay.
She's the main character. She has a major potato chip addiction, which I very much relate to.
I thought you were just going to say she's got a major potato. What?
She likes her salty foods, as
I get that.
Feel. And she's fabulously nerdy. She's a bookworm. She's just very down to earth, a everyday woman, like easily relatable. Main guy character in the story is Adam Gallagher. He is her older brother's best friend, and her older brother is Corey. And then I
Okay.
would say the other main character in this story is Amy. Amy is Corey and Callie's cousin, who they've grown up with.
Okay.
Bitch.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to put that right out there.
Bring it
She's
on.
petty. She is insecure. She is catty. And she's always hitting on Adam, and she's always looking for a way to tear Callie down, whether it's her job or her fun little nerdisms. She's just always looking to rip apart Callie, which
I've never understood women like that.
I think it's good that she kind of sets the stage as a conflict point and a villain, so to speak. So she does serve a purpose in the book, but I certainly don't like her personality.
Mm-hmm.
So the gist of the story is that Callie's going home for Thanksgiving. She hasn't been home for 6 years.
Of course not.
No, she's been busy working her job, going to college. She's got a place in DC, and that's where she lives and works. And she just never got time off from work to go home. So this is the first time in 6 years that she's able to go home and celebrate Thanksgiving with her family. Finally.
So is this one of those like big city girls going back to the small town home?
Except I can't really say she's a big city girl. She's still this nerdy little dweeb who hangs out in her apartment and reads books all day. So she's not living that big city life. She's just working.
Okay.
And even her dream job, it was like she minored in graphic design. She majored in literature. But as most of us know, what are you really going to do with a lit major?
Yeah, there's not much.
Yeah. So she finally gets a chance to go home, and she's always had a crush on Adam, her older brother's bestie. And he's essentially been adopted into her family because his parents have died because of car accidents, cancer, that type of thing. He's essentially been adopted into her family. He's staying there for Christmas, as is Amy.
Well, she's a cousin, sure.
Yeah. I don't know why she's the one cousin that's there.
Maybe proximity?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah, because she does live in that area. So Adam is about 4 years older than Callie. So she couldn't really do anything growing up. She was just the annoying little sister and always trying to hang out with her older brother and his best friend. But, you know, they were like, oh, you're annoying, go away.
To their credit.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't need a senior trying to date an 8th grader.
Yeah, exactly. But now they're both in their 20s, right? Now that she's going home and it's been 6 years. And there's the complication throughout this story of the fact that Callie lives in DC. Everybody else is living in Massachusetts, where she's from. I don't really want to give away more than that in terms of the storyline.
Sure.
Because it was a very good story, and I think people would thoroughly enjoy reading it. And it's a newer publication, obviously, 2016. So I don't want to take the excitement and joy away from people. But I will say, before I go a little bit further, that this author, Jessica G., has written several other holiday-themed books, including There Better Be Pie, which I love the title of.
I do too. I mean, the fact that the book you're reading right now is Stuffed, followed by There Better Be Pie.
Yeah.
I like the way this girl thinks.
Yes. And there's another one called NYE, like short for New Year's Eve. And then there's Ugly Sweater Weather.
Sure.
I have to say, Jessica G., excellent writer. Flow was great. Everything was very down to earth and believable, and I totally appreciate it. The pacing was really nice. Her writing was really good. Some sweet highlights, some nice things that I enjoyed in the book. Adam nicknamed Callie Pip because of her love of the book Pippi Longstocking.
Oh, okay.
That was so cute.
Yeah, that's sweet and not a terrible nickname.
Yeah. And when she was in her early teens, he and her brother took her to see a Harry Potter movie. And Adam bought her a wand, like Hermione Granger's wand. And
Very
I'm like,
good.
oh, she's the annoying little sister, but he was still like, here you go, sport, have a wand. And
yeah. And she probably treasured that. It probably sat on a very special shelf in her bedroom, probably slept with it at night and had dreams about how she was going to marry him. And that wand would be like, you know, the flower girl or something, I'm sure.
Yep. So the wand is 100% displayed in her apartment on a shelf. And then another fun thing that I thoroughly enjoyed is that Adam is renovating a Queen Anne house
Oh, very nice.
That just spoke to my heart.
That's so cool.
Very cool, in my opinion. Now for some weirdness.
Okay, bring on the weirdness. I'm going to bring on the cat while you bring on the weirdness because she's yelling at me.
I have only one problem with this entire book. For a little bit of pre-reference, my husband and I were recently having a conversation about how we refer to meow.
Yep.
So I don't like the word that starts with a P, and I've been trying to find a different word, but really there's not a lot of great options.
Not if you're trying to be serious, because I feel like you and I have plenty of options for when we're joking.
Right. But nothing I want my husband to say to me.
Yeah.
Moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So she's got a reference for it.
Okay.
It's called sex.
Oh, yep. That's a very old school reference.
Never heard it referred.
Oh, really?
I had to keep rereading it because I was like, is this a typo?
No, that is, I've definitely read some other romance novels with that in there, but they tend to be older novels. I wouldn't have necessarily expected to see that in a more modern novel.
It was so bizarre because every other reference to various genitalia and body parts was everything you would expect it to be, except for that. It threw me for a loop. So some fun quotes.
Yep, bring it.
A spark of desire shot down to my core, making my sex tighten almost painfully as his tongue retreated and his lips claimed mine again.
Painfully.
Painfully.
Okay.
And then I felt the heat of his mouth close over my sex. It was weird for me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to use that word, I think.
It's such a medical term type of word that it doesn't feel attractive. And I feel like the the word you don't like
Yeah.
is sometimes too vulgar, and and that's why finding like an appropriate word can be difficult.
That was my one and only issue with the whole book. Otherwise,
That's pretty good then.
Compared to our previous books, I was like, hallelujah. I have some other exciting highlights from the book.
Okay. What do we got?
Condom use.
Oh,
Yes, there was one always handy. It was never a question if it would be used, and it was effortlessly included in all of the sex scenes. I have never seen that in a romance book or really even a movie, for crying out loud. I loved it. I was like, yes, thank you, condom.
it makes it not taboo. You just put it out there.
He went and got it. He put it on. And then afterwards, they discussed him removing it. And it flowed and it all made sense. And I was like, that is real freaking life.
I like that. That's nice.
Yeah. So it was a fantastic read. And that's all I got for you. I'm keeping it short and simple and sweet and to the point because I don't want to spoil it, because I think a lot of our audience members would really appreciate reading it.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. I do wonder, with your extra character of Amy, does she have any sort of development in this book that allows you to have any empathy for her, or does she just play the villain straight out?
She's just a villain straight out. She's a pain in the ass. I would like to say maybe the holiday spirit gave her a little bit of redemption. No. She was a twat waffle till the end.
Such a good word. It needs to be added to the dictionary.
It really does.
Wow. All right. Very good.
Really, there was so much habanero.
That's impressive. We haven't had a habanero book yet. My Heart of Nashville book got pretty close because the sex scenes were so quick.
Yeah.
Abrupt. I'm not sure exactly what word I want. Rushed, maybe. It didn't feel like you had enough build up to make it habanero. You know, like I feel like I needed more. So yes, there were some graphic details, but it didn't feel hot enough to really reach that next level. Perhaps graphic enough, but I'm still waiting on a book that hits that habanero for me.
When I'm saying it's habanero, it's more on the steamy, spicy end, not on the grossly detailed end. Because you said you don't like a lot of the details. You like more of the imagination play.
Yeah.
I got enough detail where I was like, okay. And then I felt like, but I don't think Meghan would be completely freaked out by this because it's not
Yeah.
like gross detail and it's not, it's like a page or two. It's not like extended 12 pages of,
I think the issue is once it starts getting super graphic, I start finding it comical instead of sexy.
Yeah.
I like that anticipation. I like the buildup. I like the kind of psychological process that gets you into that space. But if you have too many pages of body parts smacking each other, it becomes just funny to me.
Yeah.
And funny kind of ruins a lot of what would be the mood. I appreciate when it's a little bit more well-rounded, a little more blended.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about your book, Meghan.
All right, so we're going for my book now. I have A Thanksgiving to Remember by Margaret Watson. Our book opens in an emergency room that's overrun with victims from a Halloween party. So you know how every Thanksgiving book starts with Halloween. So a prominent family has had this big party, and while this party was going on, a gunman came in and shot two of the family members, a husband and a wife. So there was this huge panic. People got hurt running out of the building. So now the emergency room has all of these people who were like in the stampede and were injured.
I thought you said there was no trigger warning for yours.
Well, I mean, I suppose I was thinking more along the sexual part. So we can go back and add the trigger warning in the middle. Trigger warning. Okay. So it starts, though, you don't see any of that happen. You just know that it happened. You're in the hospital now. This nurse is, overwhelmed, and she's taking care of this new patient that came to her. He was apparently not part of that tragedy. He was in a car accident that happened not too far away from that party. When he awakes, it's clear that he has amnesia. His license gives his identity as Tom Flint, but he has no recollection of who he is, doesn't know where he's come from, doesn't know if he's married, if he has kids, if there's family, doesn't know his job, none of that. Classic amnesia. We do find out that he is a fan of the Chicago Cubs.
Blah.
Ooh, sorry, Chicago folks. If
I'm apologizing for that.
here's my apology. If you are a Chicago folk and you're a baseball fan, you'd be a Sox fan. So anyway, our main character, female, is Tina White. She is a nurse. She's been given charge over Tom in his recovery. It becomes a Florence Nightingale type of situation where she starts falling for him. I really liked this descriptive sentence. So he wakes up and her first thought was he had beautiful eyes. They were light brown, the color of a well-aged whiskey.
Ooh.
I thought that was really pretty. However, her falling for him could be a very dangerous development because, again, he doesn't remember if he's married, so he could already have a family out there. But the police also have reason to believe that he may be our gunman. When they found him in this car accident, he wasn't too far away from that initial scene. He had a gun on him, and his IDs and his credit cards don't really come back to a real person. So they're trying to figure him out. But Tina throws caution to the wind, decides she's going to be his friend, his guardian while he's recovering, and she is convinced there is no way he could be blamed for the murders. And how does she justify her beliefs? In her words, "You don't look like a criminal."
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Time has proven that little theory wrong.
Yeah. She is very much naive. She's the classic ingenue. When you get into it, just everything about her just screams sweetness and innocence. He does show other troubling signs of a darker past, though. He's well acquainted with the police protocol, like interrogation techniques, surveillance, general profiling. He reads true crime novels. Sus. And again, the gun that was found on him. Tina lives alone and recently was getting a little suspicious that somebody might have been trying to break into her house. So since she is a little bit suspicious of what's going on in her neighborhood, she invites Tom to move in with her because why not? So she tells him he can stay in her guest room because she's already kind of taking care of him. He's all by himself. She thinks that living with her is going to help him, spark his memory. So he moves in. The police won't let him leave town because he may be a murder suspect. They can't clear him, but they don't have enough to say it was really him. And at page 184 of a 248-page book, we finally hit Thanksgiving.
I remember we were talking about this. And are we having another, it's about bluegrass music, but not bluegrass music moment?
Right.
Yeah.
Because we started at Halloween, and the cover of my book calls it a 36-hour novel. And I'm like, how do you start at Halloween and get to Thanksgiving within 36 hours? I mean, it makes no sense. But at page 184, we're finally at Thanksgiving. Tina has had a lot of sadness around the holiday because it will be the first Thanksgiving she spent without her mom. Her mom passed away a year ago. She and Tom spend an ample amount of time in the kitchen cooking for each other, and you can see the sadness starting to lift. They have a lovely afternoon. They watch football. So same with your book, where we've got some football mentions. While they eat, the sexual tension builds.
While they're eating, I have to tell you, I have never had sexual tension build while I'm eating at Thanksgiving.
They get up at the end of the meal. Tom starts to do dishes. Score 1 for equal responsibility in the home. But Tina is apparently not over full, tired, and ready for a nap like you and I. And she wants to start properly making out. So
She has no idea if he's a murderer or not. Okay.
Oh, yeah. And I wrote here, nothing gets you going like mashed potatoes and gravy.
Don't kink shame. Maybe that's some people's thing.
Hey, I love me some mashed potatoes and gravy. I just don't usually look at them and think that's sexy, but to each their own.
Yeah.
Prior to them getting it on, Tina says, "You've taken a day that I've been dreading and made it into something really special."
Okay.
And that's probably my favorite scene in the whole book. Like, I genuinely felt like you could feel their connection. You could feel that anticipation, even though it was mashed potatoes and gravy. I will not spoil the rest of the book. So that's as far as we're going, is around page 184 Thanksgiving, because that's where the 36 hours actually begins.
Oh.
Yeah. If you choose to read this book, you will also experience a kidnapping. You will find out Tom's true identity, and there will be another violent death. So, just saying, it's very exciting.
Hey.
I do have a decidedly dumb detail. At the very end of this book, the very end-ish, they bring in a psychic to help them find the kidnapping victim. There was no purpose. It didn't seem to really be necessary. They could have just used good old-fashioned police work. Whatever. I mean, I love myself a good psychic mystery or psychic solving something, but in the proper context. This just didn't seem to be the place. But overall, I really actually enjoyed this book. I didn't expect to. My first few pages, it reminded me of a script from like a high school play where it was like kind of overly descriptive, where I am your nurse and I will be taking care of you today. Here is the shot I will be giving you in your arm, like that kind of stuff. But yeah, this whole book was just absolutely teeming with consent. There was so much consent, and in just lovely ways. So an example of this refreshing consent, there's a point in the book where she basically says she's ready to have sex, and they're passionately kissing. He sweeps her up into his arms and says, "Where do you want me to take you?" And to quote the book, she realized that even now, he was giving her a choice.
Aww.
I thought that was really nice because it was like, hey, even in the heat of the moment, people can still change their mind or decide to do something different. I thought that was really quite nice. And like I said, not really a 36-hour romance. I don't like when it's so whirlwind that the fact that they have a heavy bond within 24 hours and they're set for life, it's a thing. It just doesn't seem super realistic. So the fact that this was starting on Halloween and at least going through Thanksgiving, which, while not a huge amount of time, was a significant amount of time where they could build rapport and actually start getting to know each other. I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
And like you, this is one of those where I couldn't get more. So not necessarily by the same author, I think, but there is more of this 36-hour series.
Oh,
So
okay.
I highlighted in the back of the book for this next one, I should watch for the next installment of the 36 hours, when romance ignites between three couples who meet during a tumultuous holiday party.
Oh.
Three couples? What kind of book is that going to be?
So you're going to read that for your Christmas story then and switch?
Oh, no, I have other Christmas stories. The story seems so silly that I am excited to read it. So, yeah, I just have maybe one more thing to say about this book, which, like I said, I enjoyed a lot more than I thought I would. And a lot of it had to do with the consent and just seeing a relationship actually grow. But I love my advertisements in books. And unfortunately, nobody got to physically see the ads from my last books, which were cigarettes. But this one is a scratch off, and I can send in for my free romance novels. There's no expiration date on this. And they will send me 2 free romance novels and a free prize. Just out of curiosity to the audience, should I try and send this in? Should we see if this works?
100%.
Comment below if you think that I should send in this postcard and see if I actually get some free romance novels. I am so curious.
We would also love to hear from our listeners as well. If you have read either one, we would love to hear your thoughts on it, or if you've read others by these authors. And we've been kind of picking the themes for our shows as we go. But if you have an idea for a theme or a genre, we would love to hear from you. And I know, do you remember Meredith? She threw, and for the life of me, of course, now I can't remember it, but she threw a genre at me where I was like, oh, so romance does have different genres.
Oh, for sure.
Sure. And we've kind of talked about, vampires, fairies, and then there's other types of genres too. And so when we were talking about like your book on episode 3 with the Nashville, was it actually a romance? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, it was. It was just, by a male author. And it was a little more racy and a little bit more straightforward with the pubic hair.
I've got to say, too, I was discussing that novel with my friend Callie and my friend Marshall. And when I explained the romance scenes, Callie laughed about it. And Marshall goes, sounds romantic to me. So maybe that's just the male perspective or a common male perspective. But Marshall was on board. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's time for my favorite part.
I have a feeling you're going to take this one. I think that you have won every single time so far.
You won last time with your Nashville.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that. Well, I don't think I'm going to win this one. Mine is pretty far into the book. I am at page 83.
The longest wait for a breast reference.
Man, it took forever. Well, like I said, she's kind of an innocent little ingenue, and there was a lot of consent. So we had to build to that point. So, yeah, his chest fell hard and solid against hers, and her breasts tingled beneath the sweater she wore. Page 83.
Tingly sweater action.
Tingly sweater breasts.
There we go.
What do you got?
Page 12, baby. He was 18 to my 14, and I knew that even if my breasts were more than a wish and a prayer, he still wouldn't have looked twice at me.
That's also an innocent reference, though. That's quite nice.
Yeah. That's how I felt like realistic.
There is a song called The Boob Fairy Never Came for Me.
Yeah. My cousin Jenny used to always joke that the boob fairy passed me by and gave it all to my sister Laura.
It's a good song. Y'all should go look it up.
Okay, romantic reminders.
I would say my romantic reminder is that you can let chores wait sometimes. That scene I was talking about where he went to go do the dishes and she was like, no, man, let's go that way. I think paying attention to the people around you and giving them your attention and your love, that's a really good thing, even though we're all busy and we've got things to do. That's my reminder.
Valid. My reminder is taking a page right from Adam. Be prepared. Boy Scout that shit. Come with a condom.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I can't say enough about it. I know it seems like a silly thing, but it's literally the first time in my 45 years that I've seen that written into a romance novel.
Mm-hmm.
Never really addressed in movies.
Yeah, not really. I feel like both of these books were quite respectful, which is nice. Sexy while being respectful.
I was just excited to read something. I don't want to be rude.
No, I get it. That's why I was a little bit hesitant on this book when I first started, and I was like, "Oh, this writing is so juvenile." It was a little bit tough to get into at first, and then once the actual story started going, I was able to kind of put that in the back of my mind. The writing's not bad; it's just not necessarily my style, if that makes sense. I thought it was going to be a much tougher slog, and then I really enjoyed the story. I read it. I would say it maybe took me a day and a half, 2 days.
Yeah.
I just sat down and went right through it.
Once I actually started reading my book, a day or two,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working and doing a lot of other things in between. So it was a very easy, quick read. I would love to read, honestly, more books from Jessica.
I'm curious to see, because I did not look it up, to see if this author is the one that writes the other 36-hour series, or if I would be getting other authors. Maybe once I send in for my free books, I will find out. Also, I don't think I gave my Scoville level. I feel like this one probably falls on, oh, wait, habanero is not our top one, is it?
No.
Carolina Reaper.
You went for habanero on yours, so not the spiciest. I was thinking that was spiciest. I feel like mine is probably like a jalapeno. I mean, there's definitely some sexy scenes in there, but it's not super graphic and it's not pages upon pages. It's really quite lovely.
I think you would have enjoyed reading Stuffed. It was so realistic and down to earth, and I felt the characters were very realistic and relatable.
I wonder if we're going to get more of that as we get into more and more modern books, like women who grew up reading these earlier novels who craved something different. So the things that we've complained about in earlier novels where the woman was treated like a child, or the woman is not given the respect she deserves, or you've got a lot of non-consensual things, and people like us grew up on those books and we're like, I can write something better. So I wonder, as we get into these more modern books, if we will get more and more of these with acceptable plot lines and interactions, or at least things that we personally find a little bit more acceptable.
Well, let's talk for a moment about that whole age gap thing, because it's relevant to my book. And what I actually, after the ones that we've been reading so far, where it's kind of creepy and bordering on some really icky things.
Yep.
My book, Stuffed, specifically Adam, the older brother's friend, he says, look, you were 4 years younger than me. Did I notice you? Yes. Was it appropriate? No. And so I was never going to pursue that. I just let it go because it wasn't appropriate. We weren't the right age at that time. Now, once you get older, no, 4 years is no big deal.
Yep.
I mean, there's plenty of people who are 5, 10 years apart. And once you're older, it's okay. I just appreciated that that was addressed as it wouldn't have been appropriate when we were younger.
And just your example when we did the Booby Prize, which you very clearly won this time, even in that example, they really set it up to be, there's clearly not going to be anything happening between these two characters when they are young. That it just isn't happening. And when you are 12, 13, 14, you typically do find somebody older than you to have a crush on. It's that kind of thing that drives you forward. Like, oh, someday I'll be there. I'll be that age. You know, you have that looking forward. So I can appreciate that.
I just felt like it was so refreshing.
We've had some, I don't want to call them duds. They've all had their bits and pieces of redeeming qualities, but they wouldn't have been my first choice in book. If I had a friend come to me and ask me which of the 4 I've read so far for our podcast, I would very clearly pick this one. I mean, it hands down, this would be the book that I would hand over. Do the other ones have things in them that make them fun in some areas? Yes. And in Little Sister, I actually liked the writing and I liked how some of the characters were described. I would be interested again to read more of that author, but I'm a little dubious when it comes to some of the romance stuff. So yeah, well, we'll see. It's interesting to see what you take from these books.
I am excited for this. I'm excited for this book. I'm excited for this episode. I thoroughly enjoyed my read, and it was a joy and a treat.
I moving forward, actually, speaking of things that we're looking forward to,
What have you got there?
this is my book for the upcoming episode, Familiar Christmas by Caroline Burns. It cost me $1. I got this one, I believe, at the Christian Thrift in Two Rivers. They have an insane romance novel section. Next time you come up here to visit me, we will have to drive over to Trevor's and take a peek, because mind-blowing. This is going to be fun. Would you like me to read you the synopsis on the back?
Please.
All right. Kidnapped by a sexy Santa.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Kidnapped by a sexy Santa. Sylvie West had stopped believing in Christmas miracles. Then the sexiest Santa she'd ever seen took her captive and demanded she help him save the holiday. One look at the mystery man's seductive gaze, and her no turned into maybe.
Oh my God.
When Hunter Sems disguised himself to recover sabotaged Christmas toys, he didn't plan on taking a tempting hostage. But now that Sylvie knew of his secrets, he couldn't let her go. With the help of a familiar black cat, he'd keep her close for her own protection. But who would protect Hunter from Sylvie and the miracle of love?
Oh,
Beyond the premise, Nicole, the familiar black cat, we're talking about like a familiar, the way they talk about it in like witchy movies.
yeah, like vampire familiars and
Yeah, or like in Harry Potter. This is a sentient cat, and the entire first chapter is him talking in his head. It's like he's a detective cat.
Shut up.
I'm so excited for this. This book's going to be told from 3 perspectives.
Wow.
It's going to be great. So that's what I got coming up, folks. So, ladies, has anybody else read it? Apparently, this is a series, this familiar cat. So if anybody else has read anything by this author, am I reading the best of the series? Is there another one I should be reading? Putting that out there.
Mine is not nearly as I don't even know what kind of adjective to use in reference to your book.
Non-traditional?
I'm going to say mine's definitely more traditional. But look at the adorable puppies.
Oh, puppies.
So this is 1225 Christmas Tree Lane. The people of Cedar Cove know how to celebrate Christmas. Like Grace and Olivia and everyone else, Beth Morehouse expects this Christmas to be one of her best. Her small Christmas tree farm is prospering. Her daughters and her dogs are happy and well, and her new relationship with local vet Ted Reynolds is showing plenty of romantic promise.
Ooh.
But someone recently left a basket filled with puppies on her doorstep.
Oh no, not puppies.
Puppies she's determined to place in good homes. That's complication number 1. And number 2 is that her daughters, Bailey and Sophie, have invited their dad, Beth's long-divorced husband Kent, to Cedar Cove for Christmas. The girls have visions of a mom and dad reunion dancing in their heads. As always in life and in Cedar Cove, there are surprises, too. More than one family's gonna have a puppy under the tree. More than one scheme will go awry, and more than one romance will have a happy ending. So this is by Debbie, I'm gonna butcher this name too, McComber.
It's McComber. She's a classic.
So she is a classic. I have actually never read Debbie.
Neither have I. I see her books all the time.
She is touted as the official storyteller of Christmas. I will see about that.
Well, I mean, I see her stuff on the shelves all the time, and I actually was wondering if one of her books was going to pop up.
This is my first foray into Deb.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm way more excited for your book, honestly.
Hey, it's cats and dogs and Christmas.
There we go.
How can we go wrong?
Furry fun for everyone.
It's not a furry romance. We haven't found one of those yet.
Well, that is it for this episode. So we changed up the format a little bit this time.
A little bit.
We wanted to have a little more chit chat and leave, especially with these books, we didn't want to really spoil the endings. Not to say that I won't do that for future books on the podcast.
Oh, no, not at all. If something deserves spoiling, it will be spoiled.
100%.
Yeah.
Rotten like fruit. Was that your
Rotten
next?
like fruit. Yeah. Spoiled like rotten fruit.
Definitely. So if you've read these books again, we would love to hear from you. If you have any book or author suggestions for us, we would love to hear from you. Comment below in the podcast. We have a fabulous website too with a lovely blog section, and you can find all of our episodes there as well. I think that ticks all the boxes for us, Meghan.
Thank you for joining us today for Romance on the Rocks. Please like, subscribe, follow, and if you're a hopeless romantic like we are and a fellow bookish biddy, think about giving us a review on Apple iTunes or Spotify, YouTube, wherever you catch your podcasts. Your support really means the world to us, and we love you.
Want to show some love for Romance on the Rocks podcast? It's easy. Visit www.buymeacoffee.com/romanceontherocks. Buy us a book or two. We appreciate you, and thanks for listening.